So welcome to DC Economics. So we are going to discuss briefly concerning about economies of scale. Economies of scale, simply these are the advantages which are obtained by a firm when it expands its size of production. Or this is a situation whereby a producer increases output while minimizing costs. You may ask yourself what advantage which a firm can obtain after expanding the size of production. Let's first begin by understanding the types of economies of scale. We have the internal economies of scale and we have the external economies of scale. Under internal economies of scale, there are advantages obtained by a single firm when it expands the size of the production. Internal economies of scale, these are advantages obtained by a single firm when it expands the size of production. So in order to understand briefly what are those advantages that a single firm is obtaining after expanding the size of production, this means that the changing or transformation from producing from the medium scale to large scale. So what are those benefits? Let's discuss them throughout looking at the internal economies of scale. The first one is the financial economies. When a firm expands its size of production, it will become possible for the firm to obtain financial assistance from the banks. You see, so the benefit is to obtain the financial assistance from the banks at a lower rate of interest because its assets may act as a security for securing those loans. So when the firm expands the size of production, it can increase capital, so its financial position, by selling shares to the public. But also we have the market economies. When a firm expands production, it can acquire necessary sources for marketing its products through advertising. You see, so here the advantage for expanding the production is to acquire necessary sources for marketing products through advertising. So if you are in the medium scale, you not want to transform to large scale, this potentiality might go quite off to you. So the unit of cost of marketing large output is smaller than the smaller output. For example, if it costs 4,000 to advertise soda products on television for 2 minutes, a firm which produces 30 crates per day will pay the same advertisement cost as a firm which produces 60 crates per day. So likewise, the unit cost of distributing to the market large output is much smaller than that of the smaller output. For example, the fuel cost of transporting 40 tons by car is similar to the cost of transporting 5 tons only. Let's look at another internal economies of scale, that is economies in buying input and at cheaper price. So you are capable of buying input at cheaper price because you have expanded your production capacity. So this can have the ability to buy input, for example, raw materials in a large quantity or at a discount price. So if you are still produce at a small scale of production, the issue of buying input at cheaper price, this could quite go off to you. It is very difficult to go at this position level. Another internal economies of scale is what is known as economies in decreasing the average cost. When the firm increases output, the average cost, that is the cost per unit of output, tend to decline. So there is advantage when the firm produces at large scale, since if there is a minimum way, there is a certain mechanism that enable the producers to lower the cost. But also technical economies. When a firm expands, it can expand its machinery capacity. In this case now, a firm can produce a large amount of output without necessarily incur additional cost. So for example, the cost of paying an operator, who operates a machine which can produce 20,000 units of commodities per day, can be summed to that of an operator who operates a machine with a production capacity of only 5,000 units per day. Also the large machinery permits. So under technical economies, when a firm expands its production or its capacity in producing, it can expand its machinery capacity. This means that when you expand your production, it means that you are capable of producing more output and enable to reach more consumers in the marketplace. That's why The cost of paying an operator who operates a machine which can produce 20,000 units of commodities can be done with the same exact cost as the machine with the production capacity of only 5 units per day. So specialization of workers enable them to gain skills and they avoid time wasting. So interchanging of locations and equipments. So this will lead now to the reduction of unit costs and increasing the output. Also, another internal economies of scale is the economies in administration. So there is economy of administration since an increase in output do not necessarily lead to an increase in number of office staff. So the large firms too can still utilize the existing office machinery and therefore incur almost the same administration costs. There are some slogans or some notions that people have in their minds that if you produce at large output is where now you incur more cost, something that is not quite right to say so. But also we have the research economies. This is among the internal economies of scale. An expanding firm can easily make research on modern technological advancements. This now enables the firm to improve output and to reduce unit cost. But also the economies in size of factor of production. So this can be economies in the use of factor of production, since to increase output by a certain amount may not necessarily require employment of extra input by the same proportion. For example, a farmer can double output by applying better method of cultivation and modified seeds without increasing acres of land and more labor force. Also, the greater division of labor and specializations are possible. But also, we have another internal economies of scale that is known as economies of specialization and division of labor. One among the advantage that a firm gains after expanding the production is the issue of division of labor. It is quite possible to have the specialization division of labor since you have most of the large resources and you have large staff, and actually your aim is to produce large output in the long run. So an expanding firm has a large possibility of specialization division of labor, which leads to the increase in output and fall in the cost of production per unit. But also we have price reduction economies. A large firm spread risk or eliminate them by producing varieties of products that will help a firm to sustain in case the demand for one product falls. So this is a potentiality that a large-scale firms gain because he or she can have alternative ways. Whenever there is a fall in demand of any product, it can rise out the demand with another product. But of the storage economies in terms of scale, under storage economies economies of scale, the storage cost per unit of output decline when the final products or the raw materials are stored in the large quantity. This is because the cost of rent of large quantity is the same as that of the small quantity. For example, if a firm has stored in a godown 1,000 sacks or crop, the rent will be the same as that of only 20 sacks stored in the same drinks. That's why the storage economies, the ones who gain more is the ones who has productions in large scale firm. This is because the same amount rent is paid on the stored godowns will be the same with the ones who actually store out the sacks but producing under the medium scale of production. But also we have another internal economies of scale that is known as transport economies. So when commodities are transported in a bulk, the cost of transport per unit is lower than when the quantities is small. For example, the cost of transporting 500 crates of Coca-Cola drinks per trip is the same as that of transporting 50 crates of the same type of drink. This means that the ones who gain more are the ones who produce at large scale, because when you transport out a large bulk of goods to one place to another, you'll pay the same amount as the ones who transfer the small book of the same amount, the small bulk that is transported on the same marketplace. After looking, so let's look on the external economies of scale. These are among the types of economies of scale. So these are economics which are obtained by all firms in a particular industry due to localizations, or what is known as amalgamations, that is concentration of many firms in one area. So under external economies of scales are shared by many firms when the scale of production of one firm or the other firms expands the external economies of scale. So we need to discuss on the external economies of scales as we did on the internal economies of scale. So the following are the external economies of scale. So since the external economies of scale, these are economies which are obtained by all firms in a particular industry due to localization or amalgamations of those interests or concentration of many firms in one area. So what is actual concerning under the external economies of scales include what is known as the infrastructure facilities. So the first external economies of scale is the infrastructure facilities. So under infrastructure facilities, when firms are concentrated in a certain area, it can lead to the development of infrastructures such as roads and communication network. As a result, all the firms in that area will be benefit from. But also another external economies of scale is availability of factor of production. So when firms have concentrated in a certain area, it may be easier for the firms to supply each other some inputs such as labor and component of some machines and raw materials. So under external economies of scale, that is explains on the concentration of many firms in one area, availability of factor of production is very easy because many firms are located in a certain area. But also a decrease in cost of production is another external economies of scale. The cost of production, like transport costs and wages, may be reduced when many firms operate in a given area. For example, when there is improvement of road transportations, all other firms will benefit and the cost of transportation will decrease. Also, mobility of labor increases in the area, resulting in the following wages. Another external economies of scale is the regional division of labor. When an industry is localized in a certain area, it is possible for each firm to specialize in a certain process of production, hence enjoying economies of scale by selling its products to other neighboring firms. For example, if a textile industry is located in firms in that industries and can specialize in particular processes, the process as follows: maybe a firm A maybe it deals on production of slaves, and firm B maybe deals with what is known as weaving of threads. And let's assume also firm C maybe deals with designing of clothes, and firm D maybe deals or specializes in production of clothes. So the division of labor enable efficient production of a different varieties of goods. And when industries operate in a certain area, it is possible for each firm to specialize in a certain process of production. So many of the firms will be enjoying economies of scale by selling its products to other neighboring firms because of the different specialization that is taking place. Each firm above may enjoy advantage of division of labor in the sense that there will be increasing output, increasing efficiency in production, but also the saving of time between the processes, but also the increasing skills of the workers. Another external economies of scale is government assistance. When many firms are concentrated in one area, firms which have been localized in a certain area can enjoy various assistance which can be provided by the government. For example, tax relief, subsidies protection. through the import control of infrastructure such as electricity, water supply systems, roads, and etc. Another external economies of scale is what is known as economies of information. Under economies of information, because many of the firms are localized in a certain area, in a large industry, it is possible for specialist firms to undertake research and provide information from which all the firms may benefit. Because there are many firms which are localized in certain area and they produce different specialized products. Now, for that case, it is possible for specialist firms to undertake research and provide information from which the firms may benefit. But also, another it is what is known as technological economies of scale. This is another external economies of scale. When an industry expands, it may lead to discovery of technology which would increase productivity of labor and therefore reduce the average cost of production. But also another external economies of scale is the growth of subsidiaries and correlated industries. Due to growth of industries, subsidiaries and correlated industries may grow. So this may specialize in production of raw materials, tools, and machinery, hence now provide them at a lower prices to the main industries. So that's marked the end. Welcome to DC Economics. Don't forget to subscribe and watch on other videos. Bye bye.